Good evening, everyone. In today's class, let's learn about functions, how to use what is a function, how to use functions in C programming. So far we have learned about control statements and standard input output functions. So under control statements, we have learned if else statements and loops and all that. And I hope you have already practiced enough number of programs under control statements. Now in today's class we are going to learn about functions. So basically what is a function? So a function, it is a set of instructions. Basically we can call this as a subprogram. Okay, it is a subprogram which is going to be part of a main C program, or we can say a function is a set of instructions that performs a specific task. A set of instructions that performs one specific task. We have been using various functions in our programs so far. Even without knowing, we might have been using various functions. Say for example, we have already used printf and scanf statements, isn't it? We have used printf statement. So this was used to display something on the monitor, right? So display some message. Display some message on output screen. So this is the task of printf statement. And then we had scanf statement. What is the task of scanf statement? So it is to accept user given values, right? Accepts user given values, or we can say accepts input values from the console or from the keyboard, whatever. So there is a task associated for each and every function, and that particular function has instructions which performs that given task. So such kind of instructions are called as functions. So there are two types of functions based on who declares it. Okay, so they are inbuilt functions, or we can say predefined functions, also called as library functions. You can give any name. You can say inbuilt functions or predefined functions or library functions. Example, you can write whatever functions you have used so far, like printf statement, printf function, scanf function. We have used clear screen function is required if you are using any DOS based compiler, that is 32-bit compiler. We can use square root function, which is present in math.h header file. We have string length function, strlen. This is a string length function. This function is used to find length of a given string. We will learn strings in our next class. Okay, so like this we have various functions, and these functions are used or for a specific purpose, and these functions is already defined, and these are present in certain header files like printf and scanf. This is present in stdio.h, that is standard input output.h header file. sqrt, it is present in math.h header file. This one is present in string.h header file. A header file is a file which contains all the details of predefined functions. So we will see what is header file and all that slowly. So these are predefined functions, also called inbuilt functions or library functions. So the next type is user defined functions. Means we can also write functions like this which can be used in different programs. Okay, so user defined functions. Now we will see how to write user defined functions, how to store them, and how to reuse them. Okay, so that is the objective of this class, to learn how to write our own functions. Like we have already used many functions like this, how to write our own functions is what we are going to see in this class. Now before this, why should we even write functions? Okay, so let us see what is the advantage of using functions. I would like to quote three main advantages of using functions, that is modularity, and then we have reusability, and readability. Different reference books gives different types of advantages. Basically these are the advantages, the names will be given differently. So what is modularity is, we can divide the program. Okay, program is divided into smaller parts. Okay, program is divided into sections or smaller tasks. Okay, so one main big problem is divided into smaller problems and each one is called as a module. Okay, smaller tasks called as modules. Now once the entire program is divided into subsections called as modules, you can assign each module to a different developer. Say in real time, when you are working on a project, you are not going to do it alone, right? You will have a team for you to help, or it's a teamwork. So a team is going to develop a particular project. Now if the entire project is done by one single person, it takes a lot of time. So when you are dividing the task into smaller tasks, when you divide them into subtasks, then you can assign each task to a different developer. Means basically you are creating modules, and this modules will be developed by different people. So this is called as modularity. So this is going to help you in dividing the program into smaller sections. When you divide into smaller sections, you can focus on solving one problem at a time, and since many people are working on any given project, so the time taken to complete all the modules will significantly reduce, because simultaneously multiple people are working on the project. So this is possible only when you have divided the tasks into modules. So the next advantage is reusability. So these functions that you have created can be used in different programs, can be used in any number of programs of similar purpose. Say for example, this square root function I told you, it is used to find square root of a given number, and how many times you use it doesn't matter. You can use it any number of times in any of the programs. All you have to do is include a header file that contains the predefined definition for this particular function, so that you can use this function wherever, whenever you want, right? So that is reusability. So every time in your program, you don't have to write code again and again. You write it once, all the common tasks, you can write the code at once, store it in a separate file, use that file in all the programs which has similar purpose, and then you can use those functions. You give the same names of the functions and you can reuse them. So that is a great advantage. Again, this will reduce a lot of time, because every time you don't have to write all the code again and again. Okay, so next is readability. So since it is divided into modules, it is easy to read and understand. It's always very important for you to indent your program and make it more readable and attractive and easy to identify for anybody who is looking at your program, because today you might be working on the program. What if tomorrow you are sick or you are leaving the job? Somebody else might have to take over the work, or maybe you are still in the team, you have developed one of the modules and you send it to some other team member, and they will have to go through your code and develop code similarly, right? So always whenever you have written a code, the other person should be able to understand easily. So easy to read and understand. So when you have created functions in your program, then it is very easy to understand compared to a program without any function. Now all these advantages I will also explain you with an example. Okay, so now so we have learned what is a function, what are types of functions, and advantages of functions. Now let us see how to create a user defined function. Okay, so user defined function. Now to write our own functions in the program, there are three things that you need to consider. Okay, so three components, or we can say three steps. Okay, three components or three steps to use functions in our program. So the first step is function declaration. Okay, function declaration, also called as function prototyping. What is this function declaration is? Just like we declare variables before using them in our program. In all the programs we declare variables in the beginning itself, so that compiler knows, okay, this variable is of this data type and this variable is of this data type. Similarly, for functions also we have to first declare, that is called as function prototype. We have to inform the compiler that I am going to use a function like this, and the name of the function is so and so. It takes this many input values and gives some output value. So that function declaration is necessary. Now, how to give the function declaration? So I will show the syntax with example. Okay, so function declaration, we have to give name of the function. Okay, function name, and then we have to give type of the parameters, data type of input values. Okay, and I need to give the return type. Return type means the function, after doing some calculations, sometimes it might give back some value to the calling point. So whatever value it gives back, so what is the type of data that the value is sent back, no, what is the type of that particular value, so that needs to be mentioned. So this is the syntax for function declaration. So let me give you examples for the same. I'll give you different examples, and you can we will see all these examples in all the other steps as well. So the first example that I give is, I am going to write a function called sum. Name of the function is sum. It will take two integer values, int comma int. It will add the values inside the function, and whatever answer we get, that is the output of this function. So return type is also int. It need not be, everything need not be same, you can give different also. I will write one function called count. So this is going to count a number of digits in a given number. Okay, so it will have a long int, just one number as an input, and it gives out another int value, means number of digits in that long number. So that is one task. And suppose I want to display some value. Okay, so then I will give display function name. Name of the function is display. I am going to pass some variable here. Let me assume I am going to pass a float value, and this is not doing any calculation or anything. Task of this function is just to display some value that is passed here as an input value. Since it does not return any value, we need to mention void here. Void means nothing. So this function does not return anything to the main function. So this is called as function declaration, and this is usually written before main function. Okay, so this is usually written before main. So the second component for using user defined functions is function calling. So what is function calling is, just like when we declare a variable, later we will have to use that variable whenever we want. Similarly, we have declared a function, we have informed compiler that we are going to use a function like this. Then we need to call the function whenever we need that task to be accomplished. So here function call is usually placed inside main function or any other function. Main is also a function, we'll discuss about it in a while. So inside main or any other function. So it has to be part of the instructions that are getting executed. Okay, so inside any other function or the main function, the function call needs to be present here. So what is the syntax for function calling is, we have to give the function name. To call a function, I need to use the name of that function, and variable names I need to give. These are the variables of the type, data type mentioned in the function prototype, and the function returns a value. To store that value, we need a variable of that return type. Okay, variable of return type is required in order to store the value that is returned by a function. So let us see examples for the same three function prototypes, I am going to give examples now. So what is the first function? It finds sum of two numbers and it gives out the answer, which is actually sum of the two input values. So I need to call the function by mentioning its name. I have to mention the values to be added or the variables which contains the values to be added. So I'm going to give a comma b, assuming a and b I have already declared it as integer variables and I have assigned some value to it. I might have given static initialization, or I might have asked the user, and using scanf statement I might have initialized the value, whatever. So some values are stored in a and b are integer variables. So here I have mentioned data type in function prototype. In function calling, I am using or I am passing variables as input values to this function. Using these values, the calculations will be done inside the function, and this variable should belong to the data type mentioned in the function prototype. Now this function is going to return an integer value, right? To store that integer value, we need to have an integer variable. So whatever answer is given out as output by this function, that is going to be stored in a variable. So you already know, you have attended the operators and expressions class. In case you have not, please go through the playlist and attend that. How operators perform its calculations and how the expressions are evaluated, I have given you the details. So when I give c equals to a plus b, the RHS expression is evaluated, and after evaluation whatever answer is obtained, that is stored in this LHS variable. Similarly, now what is there in the RHS? We don't have an expression like this. Instead we have a function call. That function call is evaluated. Answer of that function call is nothing but the value that it is returning. So that value is stored in the variable c. So c should also be of int type. Okay, so this is the example for that. And then I will give another example. Say I'll give n, which is count of the number. Okay, so name of the function, and here I have to give the number. So I can even give a value, or I can give a variable which has a value. Both are valid. So here this function is supposed to count the number of digits in this input parameter, and whatever number of digits it gets, that is returned as the output, and that output is stored in the variable n. And the third example is where I have given void, means the function does not return anything. So if the function is not returning any value, then this equal to operator and the left hand side variable is not necessary. In fact, you should not give, because it is not returning any value to store it in a variable. So I am directly going to give the name of the function and the value that needs to be printed, something like this. Okay, display average. So whatever value I have passed here, that will be printed inside the function, and here this takes these two values as input and gives out another value as output, which is stored here. This takes one number as input and gives out the number of digits as output, which is stored here. This takes one variable to print some content, and it does not give any output. Therefore, we don't have any variable here to store the value returned by the function, because the function is not returning any value. So this is function calling. Okay, so we have to declare the function before main. Wherever we want this task to be done, that function that is called as function call. In that place we call the function by passing input values, and if the function is returning any value as output, then we need variables, appropriate variables to store that value also. So this is function calling. Now the next question is, okay, I give this function name and I am passing parameters. Now how does the compiler know that when I am calling some function it has to add those two numbers? How will it know if I give this name count, it has to count the number of letters? So for that we need to write the function definition. That is the third component. Okay, function definition. So what is function definition? This is the actual code to be executed after passing the input value. So now at this point in the program, I want to count the number of digits. So I'm passing the input here. What happens exactly inside the function is written as function definition. We should only write that also. So this is the actual code that is executed. Okay, this is the actual code that is executed, or this is the code that performs the given task like counting or adding or displaying, whatever. That actual code is written inside this function definition, and it is always written outside the main function. So what is the syntax for function definition is, so if we are going to use, if you remember, if you have observed, we have given data types, name of the function, with only data type names in the function prototype. In function calling, I have given function names with only variable names. Here I have to give both. I need to give return type, means what value it returns. I have to give the function name. I have to give the data type name and the variable name for whatever parameters are present, type 2, variable 2. So I have to give everything, and then we write curly braces. Here we write the actual code that needs to be executed. Now let us write example code for these examples that I have considered in the previous parts. So what is the first one? Finding sum, right? Return type of the function is int. Name of the function is sum. It takes two integer values a and b. So write int a, comma, int b. Okay. And what is the code that needs to be executed here should be given. So I will declare one variable c. I will add these two values a and b. Now the answer is stored in C. This is a value that needs to be returned to the main function. We will give return C. Here return statement. So this is the word, keyword used to return output or return a value to the calling function. So what is the calling function? The function in which a function call to this is placed will be called as the calling function, and this is going to be the called function. Okay, so this is the called function, and from main you will call this, no, wherever this function call is present, that is called as the calling function. So to that point this value will be returned. I'll explain a complete program so that you can easily understand. So right now you just understand how to write the function definition. So we are writing the return type, writing the function name, parameter, data types with variable names. You can use same names as the ones given in the program in the main function, or you can use different names also. We'll discuss that as well. And then here inside I have declared one variable. I have done some calculations, and whatever value is there here, that is sent back to the calling function. And now I'll write the example for next one as well. So int count, here I'll take it as long int num. Okay, long int num. Here I will take a variable called n or xc, anything I can take. I'll take it as c. C equals to 0 I'll initialize. Now while num greater than 0, we will count the variable. Okay, we will increment the count variable, which is c in this case, c++. Then I will decrease the number of digits, means I'll just remove the last digit by giving num equals to num by 10. So once the program comes out of this loop, c is going to have the number of letters or number of digits present in the number. So I will give return c. Okay, so this will store the value. Similarly for display, since it is void, means it does not return any type, any value, return statement is not necessary inside the function, and if you decide to write, then you will have to just give return. With after that it has to be a semicolon, there should not be any variables given. So void display a float, right, float average or something. So we can write some printf statement. Okay, something is written here, and then we can just close it, or if we want we can just write one return statement without any variable like this. So this is how your function definition is written. Now let me write a program to find factorial of a given number using functions. Okay, factorial of a given number using functions. The first thing that we write is header files, right? Hash include. If you have, I've observed, if you have attended the beginning of the classes, then you will know what is the structure of a C program. I had given function declarations before the main function. You can just refer the initial YouTube video where we have seen the structure of a C program. In that, after header files inclusion, I had given global variable declaration and then I had given function prototypes. We will see global variable declaration in the next class. So now I will write hash include stdio.h, and if we want we can write any other header files as well. Now I am going to declare, so I'll write hash include standard library. Now we have to first declare what all functions we are going to use in the program. I am going to use one function called fact or something, which is going to take one value, one number as input, and output it has to give is the factorial of the input number. So name of the function is fact. It takes one integer input and it gives one integer output. Okay, so this is the function prototype I have written. So function prototype, you know, it has to be written before main function, and I have written it before main function. So next I am writing main function. I have told you many times you can either write void main or you can write int main, as it is as per your wish. Now void main, here I will write a variable called n, and then I will write a variable called f. Okay, so f is equal to 1. So now we will ask the user to enter a number for which we need to find the factorial. Enter a number to find factorial. So whatever user enters, it is stored in the variable n, percentage d ampersand n. Now n is a variable that has the number for which we need to find the factorial. Now I have written this factorial function in order to find factorial, right? So I am going to write f is equal to fact n. So this is our function call. This is a point in the program where I need to find the factorial. So I have just called the fact function. I have passed input value as n, and it is supposed to give the factorial of n, and that I am storing in the variable f. So this is our function call. Okay, so this is function calling, or we are placing a call to the function. Okay, now after this instruction is executed, the function returns the factorial of the given number, and that answer is stored in f. Now let's print that. Okay, factorial of percentage d is percentage d. So this is our output statement. First percentage d is for n and second percentage d is for f. Factorial of 5 is 120. Like that we are going to get the output. So this completes our main function. Okay, so we are done with function prototype, which is declaring the function before main, and we have called the function wherever we want. This is done inside main, and then we have to write the function definition, right? Function definition is after main. So I'll write int fact int n. Now how to find factorial? For this I need a loop, isn't it? So let's write whatever variables we want. We can write here int I f equals to 1. Now for I equals to 1, I less than equal to n, I plus plus, f is equal to f star I. So from 1 up to n, I am going to keep on multiplying all the numbers and store it in f itself. So when I come out of this for loop, f is going to have the factorial for that given number, and I am going to return the value of that variable to the calling position. So factorial of the number is calculated, and that value is returned to the main function, that is at this point whatever value is returned, that is stored onto this f, and then we are printing that factorial of the number n. Okay, so that is printed. So here there are certain things that you need to understand how the program works when you have a function, the user defined function included in the program. Now you know that the function execution, the control flow is always sequential unless and until it is altered through our program. So the first instruction is this one, two variables gets created, this is n and this is f. Here f equals to 1 is not necessary, anyways I have given, so I am storing it here. So this is our main function, right? This is our main function's memory. Then enter a number to find factorial, and this is displayed on the screen, and whatever value the user enters, that is stored in n. So let me assume user enters 5 and that is stored in the variable n. Next is f is equal to fact n. So this point is where from which the compiler jumps to this location. Okay, compiler jumps from the calling function, calling function and the called function. So here main is going to be the calling function, means the function which is placing the function call. Okay, and this is going to be called as the called function. So when I have this f equals to fact n, the compiler, every instruction has a reference location. So this location is stored in the memory. Compiler will pass the value of this n, and that value is duplicated onto this variable n, and here all these instructions are executed. If you observe, I have a return statement. So when this return statement is there, the program goes back to the point from where it reached this function. Okay, so this is a point from to where it goes back as soon as it sees a closing bracket. So here inside this loop I have another set of variable. Okay, so that was in main, and then there is a fact function which has a separate level of memory. Here also there is one n which has 5, and there is a variable I, and you have variable f. So whatever value is passed here, that is stored in this variable n, and here also we are storing f as 1. Then if I is equal to 1, for I is equal to 1, so I is made 1, then I is less than or equal to n. Okay, so 1 is less than or equal to 5, yes, true. So we will see to the next section, I plus plus. Okay, so we have to modify that only after executing the instructions. Now I is equal to 1, I is less than n, yes, true. So we are going to multiply the numbers f into I. F and I both are 1, multiplying you will get 1 only, and that is stored here. Okay, so then I gets incremented, and like this it keeps on happening until I becomes equal to n, and then the calculations is done such that once you come out of the loop, the variable will have factorial of the number 5. Okay, now that value is returned. When the value is returned, the compiler goes back to the location from where it reached this point. Okay, so when it returns, automatically all the variables, so here f will contain 120. Okay, and I becomes equal to 5, only then the loop will stop. Now when the compiler goes back to the main function, all the memory that was created in the sub function will be erased. Okay, everything gets erased, and whatever value it returned, only that value comes and gets stored in the variable f. Okay, because f is what is used to store the output, so that is stored in f. Now next is we have to print the factorial. Using this factorial of 5 is 120, it gets printed. So this is how the function, if you are using functions in a program, this is how the flow gets modified. Here we have to declare the prototype, and then in the main function we have to call the function. When we call the function, control shifts from the calling function to the called function, executes all the instructions. Even if you give same variable as the main functions program, it is actually going to include the copy. It's going to create a copy, and copy of that variable is used inside the function, and when it goes back to the function, all the copy variables created here will be destroyed automatically. Okay, now when you come back to main function, you have only f which belongs to main function. Is that clear? Now this is finding factorial of a given number. Now I will give you a more interesting program, that is finding sum of series expansion like this. Say suppose I have Sn which is 1 plus x by x plus x square by 2 factorial plus x power 4 by 4 factorial, and it goes on up to infinity. Okay, so here if you observe, there is a pattern. 1 can be written as x power 0 by 0 factorial, x can be written as x power 1 by 1 factorial, right? Then we have x square by 2 factorial, x cube by 3 factorial. So right now if you observe, in this case I is 0, here I is 1, here I is 2, I is 3. And if you observe the terms, it is basically 1 is x power 0 by 0 factorial, x power 1 by 1 factorial, like this. Okay, it's like this. So here we have to take variable for I, we have to start from 0 and we need to continue until whatever value is given. Okay, so let us take the value of n and we are going to find the answer until that. So I'm going to show this in the software. Here I am going to use two functions. One is to find power, another one is to find the factorial. See here, numerator is a power function, denominator is a factorial function. So there is one power function in math.h header file. If you include math.h, you can use power function, power x comma y will actually give you the answer of x power y. So if you want to find power of x square, you can write power x comma 2 or power x comma 3. That gives you a x square or x cube answer. It is just POV. Okay, so right now what I'll do is I will not use this. Instead, I will write my own function for finding power as well as finding factorial. So I will write this as function 1.c. I will save it first. So let me write implementing power function or implementation of power series expansion or finding sum of a power series, whatever you want to write. So here I will write hash include stdio.h. Okay, and I am supposed to use two functions, right? I will give int power, int comma int. This is to find power of a given number. Int fact int. This takes only one input, which is int. Okay, there is one power function, there is one factorial function. Both I am defining here. I am not using the POV standard library function. You can use it if you want. And right now I just want to show you how to use more than one function inside a program. Okay, now function declaration is done. Next is function definition. In function definition, we will first declare the variables that is required. I need the variable x and I need variable n, and then we need variable I, and then we need variable answer that is made as 0. Later if we need some more variables, we can declare it, no issues. So I'll write printf, enter the number of terms n. So this is going to ensure that the variable number of terms is stored in the variable n or whichever variable we have given, ampersand n. So the number that we have written, that is here, see in this example, suppose if I want to execute up to not up to infinity, we can't do. I have told you before, up to infinity we cannot execute this. Suppose I want to do it up to x power 5 only. So I have to give n as 5 and I have to give some value for x, say 2 or something I have to give. Now I'll write enter value of x. Scanf percentage d ampersand x. Now I have the input values. Now let me write a program for, let me write the loop. For I equals to 0, I less than equal to n, I plus plus. What needs to be done is answer is equal to answer plus power of x comma I divided by fact of I. So once you come out of the loop, you have the answer for the given series. We'll just print it. Okay, print the solution is percentage d answer. So that's our main function. So now let us write the function definitions. I have already explained you for fact. I will finish it off that. I'll finish off that first. Int fact. Here I'll have int I comma f equals to 1 for I equals to 1, I less than equal to n, I plus plus, f is equal to f star I, return f. So here I have written factorial function. Now let us write the definition for power function. So I'll write int power. This is the base and this is the power. Like if I want x power n, I need both x and n to find. Here I will declare I and I will have one variable called p and I'll store 1 there. Okay, for I is equal to 1, I less than equal to n, I plus plus means I have to execute this loop n number of times. And what is x power n? What is 2 power 3? 2 should be multiplied with itself 3 times, right? If it is 5 power 5, 5 should be multiplied 5 times. So here x power n means x should be multiplied n times. So I have stored a variable p, as I have stored value 1 in the variable p, and with that I keep on multiplying x. How many times? This loop is getting executed n times, so n times x will be multiplied, and in the end I will return the variable x. Okay, so this is going to give you the answer for power series expansion. So let me save it, and we will have a test output. Let us see what should be the output. If I give what value shall we give? If I give n as 2, okay, if I give n as 2 and if I give x as 5, what will be the value? It is 1 plus x square by 2 factorial, right? So it is 1 plus 5 plus 5 square I am going to get here. 5 square is 25, by 2 is 12, so 6 plus 12 we will get 18. Okay, so let us check with this sample data. Now let us compile this program and let's run the program. I'll give the same input that we have just checked. Number of terms I'll give 2. Actually n value is 2 and x value is 5. So the solution is 18. Okay, so we have got, and let's try with one more output what we are going to get. I will give x as 3. Okay, I'll give x as okay, x let it be 5 only. I will give n as 4. Then s will be 1 plus x square by 2 factorial plus x cube by 3 factorial plus x power 4 by 4 factorial is what we are supposed to get. And based on the values given here, we will get 1 plus 5 plus 25 by 2 is 12. 12.5 we will not get, we will get 12. And then x cube by 3 factorial. X cube is 125. 125 divided by 3 factorial is 6. So we are going to get 20, right? Yeah, we will get 20 because 6 into 20 is 120. This 5 will be the remainder plus x power 4. 5 power 4 is 625 divided by 4 factorial is 24. So I'm going to get 26 here. So what will be the answer is 64. Let's check again. N I am giving 4, x is 5 only. So I'm getting 64, right? So hope you understood the program. See here what we have done is, it is very easy for us to understand this part of the program. This instruction, it's very easy to understand. So I told you about readability, right? So here what is that we are doing? We have some answer. With that I am adding power of x comma I, means x power I divided by factorial of I. So this we calculate and this we are adding to the answer. So every time I am calculating, we are actually finding values of these terms one by one. So first I find x power 0 by 1 factorial. X power 0 by 0 factorial is what I find first. To this answer I will add x power 1 by 1 factorial. To this overall answer I will add x square by 2 factorial. So like this, one by one we are finding the terms and we are adding how long? As long as n is equal to, until n reaches 5 or until I reaches the value n, which is 5. So until that we keep executing this. So here what is a benefit is, it has given more readable, more understandable program, easy to handle. All you have to know is, I need a function, a module called as power. It takes two values x and n. It gives out one output which is actually x power n. Similarly, I have one more module called fact. So it takes one input value only, which is n, and it gives one output value which is n factorial. So these are modules. So whatever functions I have written now in the program called as power and fact, these are actually the modules. Now if you know what should be the input to this and what should be the output, then I need not bother what actually is written inside that function module. Wherever I want power function, wherever I want to find x power I am going to use it. Power x comma I, x comma n. So this I will use wherever I want. How the function is written, that is given to another team member. Okay, so the module is developed by somebody else. Now all such modules, whatever is required for my particular application, that can be stored in one header file. Whenever I am building such applications, I can use this header file and I can use this function whenever I want, how many ever times I want. In all the programs also, if I want, I can use this function. Hence it provides reusability. Okay, so I told you three different advantages. What is the first advantage? Modularity. So I told you that we can develop the program into sub modules. We can divide the program into sub modules, assign the module development to another team member, and you can focus on the overall program logic. Now you are the person who is writing your main function, and that power and fact you have given to another team member, and he is writing code for that. What type of code he writes inside that function, how many variables he uses inside the function, what is the name of the variable he is using inside the function, all that is doesn't matter to you. All you need is what is the name of the function, how many values it takes, and what is the output it is going to give you. So that if you know, so like this, that is called as abstraction also as well. So all you need to know is this details. If you know this details, you can use those functions even before the function is ready. Later you can integrate all the function definitions, that is the modular definitions, with the main program to execute the complete program. So that is modularity. Divide into modules, write the input and output specifications, and you start using. Meanwhile, there is another person who is developing those individual modules and you can integrate them in the end. So reusability, as I told you, that power function, if I store it in a header file, I can use it any number of times. The best example is all our library functions. Readability. So again, I showed you the actual code. In the code, if I have written so many loops, one inside the other, one separate numerator, one separate loop for denominator, it becomes very difficult to understand. Now the code is just this much, which is so easy to understand for you, right? So we are taking the values and we are doing calculations of this format and we are displaying it. What exactly happens inside a power and fact, that is written here. Okay, hope this is clear. In our next class, in my next class tomorrow, I am going to explain you how this program works, about different storage classes. We have actual parameters and formal parameters, and I told you here you can use same variable name or different variable name. So how it alters the program execution, or say for example, see here I have given a and b. Instead of a and b, I can use some other variable names also. I can use c and d also. Okay, I can give a here. This is c plus d, return a. So there are something called as local variables and formal variables, or we can say local parameters and formal parameters. And then we have storage classes, and I told you that how the function executes, right? When we go back to the main function, the variables are destroyed. I showed you that, yeah, here. So in main we have these variables, and whatever variables I declare inside fact function, I told you that it gets destroyed. All these things, when we go back to the main function, this gets destroyed. So what we have to do in order to retain the value, and do we really need to retain, when to retain and when you should not retain the values, these things we will discuss in our next class. Okay, so hope you have understood all these things. I will post some more videos for you to understand the functions, how to declare and use functions, and I'll be giving you some assignments also. Try to solve them, and meanwhile I will be posting solutions for the same. Okay, that's it for today's class, and make sure you watch the next class to get complete understanding of the functions. And if you have any doubts, you can mention, and make sure you like the video and also share it with your friends. So your likes and comments will help us reach do better in YouTube analytics, so it will reach many people. The videos will reach many such students who are willing to learn. Okay, see you in the next class. Take care. Bye bye.